Hi, I'm Leslie Friedel, and I'm the CEO at Visiting Nurse. I want to welcome you to this year's virtual presentation of A Toast to Life. Toast to Life is typically held in the fall, but this year we are moving the event to spring, as spring is a time of renewal, so that we can toast the lives of those we've lost. Due to the ongoing pandemic, we have decided to hold this event virtually, but I'm hopeful that we can get together in 2022 to celebrate A Toast to Life in the spring. Typically during Toast to Life, we share stories of those that have been impacted by Visiting Nurse services. This year is unique as we are celebrating Hospice Home's 20th anniversary. It is pretty incredible to think that we have served over 10,000 patients at Hospice Home, ranging in ages from 5 months old to 103 years old. It's amazing to think of all of the family members, friends, and loved ones that have walked the halls at Hospice Home to visit those patients that we have served. Hospice Home is a unique community resource. It's the area's only inpatient hospice unit. At any given time, we could be serving up to 14 patients at Hospice Home. It's an honor to walk beside the physicians, nurses, aides, social workers, chaplains, and volunteers that serve at Hospice Home. As with any home, 20 years can put some wear and tear on a building. Along with raising awareness of Hospice Home, we would also like to raise funds to replace our roof, windows, flooring, nurses station, and update our quiet reflection room. We are also looking to raise funds for future capital needs at Hospice Home. The building is truly a community gym and has touched the lives of so many. We are so fortunate to receive support from the following corporations:
Compassionate Care sponsor, Ruoff Mortgage. Tribute sponsor, AEP Foundation, Corsica Technologies, Fort Wayne Medical Oncology and Hematology, Midwest Pipe and Steel, and PHP. Celebration sponsor, Three Rivers Federal Credit Union, Advocare Systems, Ambassador Enterprises, Beers Mallers, Dale, Huffman and Babcock, Donovan CPA, Fairhaven Funeral Home, First Merchants Private Wealth Advisors, LC Nature Park, Lutheran Health Network, True North Strategic Advisors. Partnering Care, Access to Care, Burn Ready Mix, Home Care Home Base, Highland, Kaup Pharmacy, Old National Bank, PNC, and Sweetwater Sound.
I thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about Hospice Home and to hear stories of those that have been served by Hospice Home.
I'm Dr. David Tribble. I'm a hospice and palliative medicine physician and a family physician. I've been a family doctor since 1980. I've been a hospice and palliative medicine physician since 1992. This facility is unique in Fort Wayne. It is the only freestanding hospice facility in the city, in fact, in the county. The patients and families benefit first in these days by actually being able to see each other. We are able to have visitors come in where people in the hospital or in nursing homes frequently cannot. They have attention to their comfort. They have attention to the things that matter to them. We have a beautiful campus. You can look out of any window of any room in the place and see gardens and fountains and lakes and things like that. So it's a much more pleasant environment. Probably my most memorable inpatient hospice story was of a woman who had bad kidneys and a bad heart and got to the point where she could not tolerate dialysis anymore, so she stopped it. And she came to us on 3 pages of medications and told me in no uncertain terms that she'd been taking more than 30 pills a day for the last 25 years, and she wasn't going to do that anymore. She'd done taking pills. And I remember seeing her the following day, expecting her to look terrible, and her opening sentence to me was, "I haven't felt this good in 25 years. She went on actually to do well enough that she left the inpatient environment. She went home with her daughter. ultimately thought maybe this hospice thing was a little premature, and so she signed out. And about 3 months later, she died quietly in her sleep. A real success as far as I'm concerned. Other places have hospice inpatient units, but they are, for the most part, parts of other buildings. They are parts of hospitals, they are parts of nursing homes. And therefore they are subject to a variety of rules and regulations that we are not. We still have health department regulations we must follow and so forth, but we are a place that is solely for this purpose. It is not only functionally for this purpose, it was designed for this purpose. It was designed to look like a place you might not mind living, as opposed to looking for a place you can't wait to get out of. And that ambiance, that environment is extremely important to the atmosphere here and to the feeling of being welcomed and being at peace and being comfortable as a primary goal.
Well, my name is Linda Hamblin, and my mother-in-law was a patient here approximately 12 years ago, and we had a wonderful experience. We came to visit my mother-in-law. She had been home for 6 months with my husband and her daughter, caring for her. And during that time, she had hospice care. And the hospice workers had told her that she was eligible to come and spend a week here and allow her family a rest time. And when she decided that time had come, she told them, you know, I'm going to make the arrangements. I'm going to go, and I want you to go home and spend a week with your family, because they had not been home for 6 months. They stayed with her. And once she was here, she was very relieved. Even though they did a very good job of taking care of her, there's always that feeling of, I'm putting my family out. I'm a burden. And when she was here, she didn't feel that way. She was only here, I think, 3 or 4 days. And the staff called and said, you know, she's not responsive. And so, of course, the whole family dropped everything. We came and we stayed, and she passed away a few hours later in the wee hours of the morning. And after she had passed, and while we were waiting for the funeral home to arrive and things like that, my husband and I went outdoors. It was July. We went outdoors and we were walking around the grounds. And it was very pretty. But when we came around the side of the building, there was her window, and under her window were the most beautiful flowers. And so, to us, and to her, because she had seen them once, that was her resting place. She was no longer afraid. I also think that having her here and her saying that she was fine, that she was comfortable, that she liked it here, that she was no longer afraid because she knew there were people here, I think that made a huge difference to the family themselves, and of course to her, because she was at peace. I would always recommend that anyone who has a family member that is ill come to the visiting nurse. This is an absolute treasure for those who have family that are suffering. It will ease the family's mind. It will calm the patient themselves. It's just a wonderful thing. We were just so blessed to be here, and so was she.
I'm John Giebers, and I'm born and raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I had a really good childhood growing up with wonderful parents, and Mom was lucid at times, but for the most part, pretty non-communicative after the stroke. So I'm not sure what she thought of her transport into Hospice Home, other than I can tell you that as we were wheeling her in on the gurney from the ambulance, I asked for them to pause for a moment, and I called out to my mom and asked her to open her eyes. And I remember very poignantly her doing that and seeing a very blue sky. This was in April, and it was just beautiful outside, and the birds were singing. And even though she was impaired from the stroke, I can know pretty confidently that she was taking in her last view of nature and the sky, which she dearly loved. And then we brought her inside Hospice Home, and it is a very comfortable, very well appointed place for families and their loved ones to come for end-of-life care. It really fit my family well, and the care was exceptional. One of the experiences that may not seem that important, but I could tell it was to my mother, was that a nursing assistant, got the idea that my mom might like hand cream rubbed on her hands. Nothing that a son would ever think about doing. No hesitancy to do it, but I never would have thought of it. So when the assistant saw how much my mom enjoyed it one day, she came back almost at the same time every day with a different hand lotion, different fragrance, and she talked to my mom while she was doing it. Mom was aware sometimes, not aware other times, but the expression of comfort that came over my mom's face while that was being done was extraordinary. End of life is not easy on anyone. I can tell you it was probably the most stressful time for me as a loving son to ensure that mom was comfortable and her needs were cared for. And there were things that happened as her body was slowly winding down that I never in a million years could have prepared myself for. And the nurses and the chaplains and the social workers here at Hospice Home were angels on earth, and I respect and admire them a great deal. When you have a loved one dying, there are things that happen not just with the patient, the person who is passing on soon, but with the family, the dynamics that happen in family members. And we had one particular event in my family that I wasn't prepared to deal with, along with all the other emotional things that were happening. And out of the blue, one afternoon, the Hospice Home social worker approached me and asked how things were going. And we went into a quiet space, quiet room, and we talked a little bit, and she was a good little valve for me to release some steam. And she just pointedly looked at me and said, "So tell me about your family. How's it going with them?" And that was the avenue I needed to then address the issue that was going on that didn't have much to do with my mother, but it was affecting the whole situation. And in about a half an hour's time, she diffused the whole situation in my mind so that I could go back to concentrating on just being the son of a dying loved one. So I'm very grateful. You don't really think of social work in a situation like losing a loved one, but she was really beneficial. For other people in the community who may be losing a loved one or know that there's going to be a time when decisions have to be made about how end-of-life care is going to be given, I cannot recommend going with a hospice organization more strongly because they are so well suited and know not only the medical side of it, but the emotional and spiritual side of losing a loved one. My experience has been with Visiting Nurse, and because it's a not-for-profit and because they genuinely care for human beings, I cannot recommend them more highly to anybody who's having to consider it. They will make things much more smooth, and it will become a more sacred experience saying goodbye.
Hello, my name is Nancy Stewart, and I am honored and delighted to serve as a member of Visiting Nurses Foundation Board. It is a pleasure to be meeting with all of you virtually today, and like Leslie, I agree that we all look forward to gathering together again in person very soon. The stories and testimonials you heard today from Linda Hamblin, John Gievers, and Dr. David Tribble were truly powerful. You can see that the care provided at Hospice Home leaves a lasting impression on anyone who has experienced it for a family member or a friend. We are indeed fortunate as a community to have such a unique place as Hospice Home. As Leslie mentioned, Hospice Home needs our help in a number of ways this year. Today, I am asking you to please join me in making a gift to enable Hospice Home to better serve patients and families for another 20 years. I know with your help, we will reach our goal of $750,000. Hospice Home is a community treasure. At a Toast to Life every year, we take a moment to lift a glass, to toast and remember the lives of those we have loved and lost. As many of you know, when you visit Hospice Home, you often smell the aroma of fresh baked cookies. Today, in that spirit, I am raising up a glass of milk along with a Hospice Home baked cookie to remember those we have lost. Cheers with milk and a cookie. Visiting nurse staff are the hands that provide care and comfort to our patients and families. But you all are all the heart of our organization. Thank you so very much for your support of Visiting Nurse and Hospice Home. The best is yet to come.